All right, we got that. Ooh, try that. All right, we're gonna go live. Oh, sweet. This looks fun. Wait a minute. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm trying to go live on Substack. This is new. We've sent a push notification to your subscribers. Interesting. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I still gotta do this. No one's here yet, so we're just yapping. David, I asked this at the end, but I'm starting to ask this in the beginning. Are you a coffee or tea guy?
Oh, coffee, 100%.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
actually a coffee snob.
Dude, same. Let's talk
So,
about it. Do you have you're in LA, right?
I'm actually not. So
Okay.
the majority of the company is LA. I'm actually in the South, so I'm actually in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm the only one in Alabama. So we're a fully remote company. We are all over the US and in Canada. So we have several people free actually in Canada, in like the Toronto and the Vancouver area. We have people in Nebraska, Nashville. Most of us are in LA because that's where the film industry is, and that's
Yeah,
we fully
okay.
work.
All right, so coffee. So like give me your go-to spot in Birmingham?
Oh man, it's actually the coffee scene in Birmingham is actually pretty good, but some of my favorite spots just shut down for
No
whatever
way.
reason. But there's still several ones that are like either convenient. There's like June downtown. There's like
Okay.
Kala, which is like the closest one.
Okay.
There's this one it's called Seeds over in Homewood. Really
Okay.
great. But yeah, I no Starbucks,
Yeah.
no anything.
No, I can't.
Has to be
It
craft
has to.
level.
Yeah, I will go out of my way when I travel to find a coffee shop
Yeah,
that is not corporate.
anytime I go to a new city, like that's on my bucket list is like find all the coffee shops and visit all I
Thank you.
can. And
Thank
you
you.
find them by finding like which shops look the most pretentious. At least that's what
Yes.
I do. You go to
Correct.
like you go look
Same,
them up
dude.
on Google and you're
Same.
like
Love some
okay,
pretentious coffee. Yes.
like they definitely call it espresso and milk. I'm gonna go there. It's gonna be great.
Do you okay? And now here's a bigger question. We have some people tune in. Welcome everybody. Please say hey. We'd love to hear from you. Hot or iced? I think this is the biggest
I can go either
argument
way.
that I have.
I can go either way. I'm
You go either
happy with
way.
yeah.
So I'm an ice guy.
Okay.
I never drink hot coffee. My
Even in the winter.
not even where I was in Boston for Torque in January. It was 13 degrees outside, and I was drinking iced coffee. So for me, I feel like hot coffee. You can't taste it. You're just drinking hot liquid.
Sounds like you're not doing it right.
I know.
That's what
Maybe
I'm
not.
hearing.
Maybe not. So, anyways, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Pumped for this episode. I love talking with folks that have some Nashville connection. Obviously, this show we bring on people from all over the country, really the world. Had some people in India on the show, and so excited for this one. There's some connections to Nashville. David and I are going to talk about it. But pumped for this. Before we dive in, as always, please say hey. Would love to hear from you. I was talking to David about this backstage, and I really haven't talked about this publicly. So I'll kind of share why I do a morning show. So back when I was a kid, I visibly have the memories of listening to radio stations first thing in the morning as my mom took me to school. And, it was back in the 90s playing absolute, 90s bangers. And I just loved like the back and forth of the disc jockeys and all that stuff. And so back when I was at Vaco, I was like, well, I want to do a morning show. I was telling David my original intention was just to talk about jobs, like just have a morning show, talk about jobs, and we still may do that here at Torque. But the reason why I do it in the mornings is my thought is grab a cup of coffee on your way to work, or maybe you're in between meetings and come hang out with some guests. So that's kind of where that started. I've never shared that live, so there you go. A few other things. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Appright. Me and my colleague Jason Torres are on the Heroes program at Appright. Go check them out. Great crew, great piece of software. Also to listen, David asked me backstage, how are you guys doing with Torque? And I was like, listen, we're crushing it. If you want to check out all the events we do, again, I pull from nostalgia. Cable TV used to have the guides, right? The guides on what you're watching. We actually have a guide on the Torque.community page. I really pull from a lot of nostalgia. I didn't realize
I love
that.
it.
But if you go to the Torque community page, you scroll down a little bit, you can see the guide on all the events we do every single week. So go check that out. I had somebody join last night. Shoot me a text. Shout out Natalie. Text live 615-235-5650. If you want to be updated on when I go live with folks like David. Want to get to a few people tuning in this morning. Again, Kelly, it's good to see you. Jason, my guy is always late to meetings. He's trying to turn a new leaf, hence him mentioning that he's early. Bonnie, it's good to see you. Ricardo, it's good to see you. I'm guessing Kino name is a play on film terms.
So it is. It's actually like what they call cinema in Germany. So it's a German term. It means like motion.
I love that. So Jason is a former film guy, so I'm sure he'll have some thoughts along the way of this episode. Cool. Iced either way, or iced all the way. Either way is a good answer. Jalen, my guy from the Torque community, it's good to see you. No hot coffee for me too. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate that. Jeff, it's good to see you. Hot coffee for the win. Jeff, it's one thing I disagree with you on. One of the best ways to get my morning started. Kelly, that means a lot. Sebastian, it's good to see you. Chris, it's great to see you as well. Awesome. Sweet. All right, cool. Enough with me yapping. David, let's give the people what they want, man. Who are you? What do you do? And we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I am the CTO and one of the co-founders of Kino. So we are a technology company that works in the film space. We've worked in both kind of the B2C space where we've hosted like film festivals and live premieres of movies. So you could watch the film live on our platform before it made its way to Netflix. It was like a whole event. We had the casting crew come on. You could interact and ask questions, stuff like that. And we also work in the B2B space, which is kind of our focus this year. It's focusing on the B2B. So we're working with film studios and providing them a way to share their film in a very, very secure way. Before, again, it goes to Netflix. So if you think about it, you're a filmmaker, you make a movie, you want to sell your movie. So in order to sell your movie, people have to watch it, right? So you send this movie out to hundreds, even thousands of people. If one of those thousands of people that you send it to is a bad actor, that movie gets pirated, it can sometimes kill the deal. Netflix isn't going to buy it if it's not available on a torrent site. So what we built is a highly secure platform where filmmakers, studios can distribute their film before it gets picked up. So that's just like one use case of it.
That's really cool.
But that's it. Just secure film distribution.
So do people? So I'm curious. So how do you make money?
So we have deals with studios, right? So that's the B2B side. There's like enterprise level contracting. So depending on how much throughput they have, depending on how much storage they have, depending on how many people they're sending it to. So those are very kind of unique contracts that we build that's custom for the studios. And then one thing that's really important to us is that we're helping film and TV become more equitable. So we want to provide the same tools to the smaller filmmakers that may not have the budgets of the big film companies, but they still need to be able to protect their art and their IP that they've on. So we have a much like cheaper entry level for the smaller filmmakers.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right. So I want to talk about your career, right? I mean, I think you were once a corporate engineering manager. Fun fact, David helped write the TSA. What was the TSA? What? Biometrics? What
the biometric enrollment for TSA PreCheck. So built the software so when you go to the airport, you don't have to take your shoes off. And it's fantastic. If you don't have it, I still always promote it every time I talk to someone. $85 for 5 years, the best money you can spend.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that was really cool. There's the company here in Nashville that actually is responsible for that, believe it or not. So talk about so engineering leader for, kind of a corporate engineering leader for how long?
10 years.
10 years.
Probably across a couple different companies.
Yeah. Talk about what made you make the pivot, man. Because I think a lot of people are like, man, engineering leader, you got it made, dude. Like what made you jump?
So I'll give the really quick version of my background, kind of the story.
Please. Yeah.
So I actually grew up in a very conservative, legalistic kind of Christian home where we weren't allowed to watch movies. We weren't allowed to wear shorts. Women couldn't cut their hair, wear makeup, a bunch of things. But the big thing was you couldn't watch film, you couldn't play in organized sports. And so I didn't get access to a lot of film.
Yeah.
And when I was a teenager, I got into technology. My brother and I so we actually founded the company with my brother, which is really
Okay.
cool. So we usually
That's
play off
cool.
the story together because he has
Yeah.
his whole story where he
Yeah. Yeah.
goes to
Yeah.
the Matrix. He sneaks out, goes and watches the Matrix in the theaters with one of his friends at the time, and it blows his mind because he's watching his life play out on the screen, right?
Yeah.
He feels like he's Neo. And so while he was doing that and he was kind of very loud and doing all these things, I just got into technology. I learned how to and actually pirated. So I was
That is
just really
hilarious. So
bad.
you've developed a piece of your business is essentially
Absolutely.
protecting what you were doing.
So I figured out how to do that. I got my hands on basically any movie I could watch, and I just watched everything until one day I got a cease and desist letter from the FBI, and
No way.
terrified me. Luckily, I
Yeah, that
checked the
would have
mail that
terrified
day.
the living daylights out of me.
Yeah, yeah. I checked the mail that day. So like I actually found the letter instead of my parents. I'm not sure if I was more, afraid of them finding it or the FBI letter itself. But I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
drilling holes through like hard drives and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So that kind of started the journey. After that, I got into tech. I started doing like graphic design, working at a print shop, doing like freelance stuff for businesses, setting up websites. I worked doing government contracting in the biometric security space for a long time, and then got into real estate tech, which was actually really cool because that was
That was
so
at Real
work.
Tracks, right?
That was at Real Track, yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
doing the government contracting sounds really cool. Biometric security, like it's got to be cutting edge. Really, it's not. Working in like the government space to get anything approved is the pain. Like you have to go through all these steps. So you're always working on like a little bit dated technology. It's very hierarchical. So like
Yep.
structure, you have one job, you fit in that role. There's definitely a hierarchy. This person's been here 2 years longer than you, so they're above you in the totem pole. A lot of stuff like that that I think really stifles creativity and innovation. And so making that move into the real estate tech, it was for this company called Real Tracks. They're a real estate MLS. And we really had a lot of control over how we wanted the team dynamics to be and how we wanted to build and operate. So that was really, really cool
Yeah.
because we got the technology we're building was actually way more cutting edge, but especially when it comes to like the culture and how you treat one another. We got to try a bunch of stuff out. Like we completely got rid of titles. So there was no senior engineer, senior principal architect, none of that.
Yeah.
And the idea is you would get compensated based
Sure.
off of the value that you're adding, right? Like, so it's not like everyone's being made the same. You get compensated. What's equity, right? Equitability is the key there. But
Sure.
what it does is it creates an environment where you can collaborate.
I
Because if
love
you've
that.
ever been in a meeting where you have like a senior engineer and a junior, the senior always dominates the conversation. When the juniors, a lot of times, have really, really great ideas, a different perspective, a different way of looking
I
at it.
love
And
that. And
so
then that was at Real Tracks?
that was at Real Tracks,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that
That's
kind of
awesome.
started that, and I was on that journey at Real Tracks. Loved it. Still love the team there. Still talk to Doug and Nate and John and
Doug's a
a
good
bunch of
dude.
people over there. They're
Yeah.
they're they're awesome and doing really cool things in the real estate world. So when we originally came on to Real Tracks, the technology was really dated. They had been
Yep.
working on this new version of their technology for like 3
Yep.
years. Finally released it. They hadn't done user testing. They hadn't done a lot of stuff, and so it was a bust, and it was hurting people's livelihood because these real estate agents like needed this to work so that they could sell houses, make money, pay their bills. And
Yep.
so we were kind of brought in during this. So over the course of the 5 years that we were there, we changed a lot of stuff. We implemented all these new ideas and things. And the last year before I left, we actually won Technology Company of the Year.
You did.
Super, super cool. And that felt like kind of a good close of that chapter in that
Yep.
story. And so a lot of the reasons why we started, came down to timing. Like everything just worked out.
Yeah.
My brother is in the film industry. He's made shows with Jimmy Kimmel, Matt Damon,
Oh, wow.
Peter Berg, a bunch of
Okay.
really cool stuff. And so he would call me from set um, and just talk about the film industry, Hollywood, all the crazy stuff they would do just super backwards. They'd be handing people like envelopes full of cash, no good accounting. And so we had been talking about doing something in the film industry for 10, 12 years at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that kind of just worked out. At the time, I just like sold one of my homes. I had a little bit of cash in the bank. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can take a pay cut for a little bit,
Sure. Sure.
which is it's a real thing when you're
Sure.
starting a startup. Like you can't expect to, you know, make market of what you're making elsewhere. So there was a lot of stuff like that, and everything kind of just worked out. Um, the story of how the company kind of got started is kind of crazy too. My brother was sitting down at dinner with some friends who happened to be a Sequoia scout and was just telling him about all this stuff. And he was like, "Oh, dude, you got to do this. You
Sequoia,
gotta
like the investment firm.
the investment. Yeah." He's like, "Man, you have to go build this." And so that was
Wow.
actually our first check.
That's
Um,
awesome. Just
and from
Sequoia writing you
there,
your first check. No big
yeah,
deal.
yeah, and from there it just kind of built on. And as things do, like the company has changed a lot in the 3.5 years. But still, like everything comes back to trying to make film industry more equitable, more efficient, and more engaging.
Yeah. I love that. Talk about, I am curious. I mean, one of the things you put on your questions that I asked when people register, I mean, you talked about hiring engineers and feature engineers, product engineers. I mean, can you dive into that, especially as folks who may be looking for a job?
Yeah,
What you like to see when you hire engineers? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. But I'm just interviewing David. But I mean, can you talk about how you like engineers to think and communicate and all that jazz?
absolutely. Have you ever heard of Silicon Valley Product?
No.
Marty Kagan. There's a whole crew of them out there. They wrote some really great books.
Okay.
Inspired, Empowered, all these books. And so a lot of these ideas come from them. I don't follow absolutely everything they do, but a lot of it does. This idea of a product engineer versus a feature engineer comes from the book Empowered.
Okay.
This idea is if you have a feature engineer, they're the ones that are like, give me my acceptance criteria. I'm gonna go right. I'm gonna check every single thing off and push the ticket, and it's no longer my problem, right? I
Correct.
check. So the idea of a product engineer is you come in and it's someone who you can explain, hey, here's the intent and the expectation. Here's the problem we're trying to solve, and they can go in there. They don't need an acceptance criteria list. They can go in there, they can figure out those things. They can find things that maybe the product manager missed during discovery, and they can bring those ideas up. And so when we build product, we build things that are usable, valuable, feasible, and viable. And one person can't solve all of those things.
Sure.
That's why we say discovery is a team sport.
Sure.
Like you can't just have one person. And you can, you're just going to get a subpar product because they only
Sure.
have one. So it's this idea of someone that goes beyond just checking the boxes and actually really understands the intent, really puts himself in the place of the customer,
Okay.
has lots of empathy.
How, you're definitely not the first person that said this recently. I interviewed another startup founder, Rachel Lambert. She created the networking platform that's been used by like All In Podcast, Jason Calcanis, and all those guys to like basically host events across the globe at one time. And she's kind of said the same thing. And so I want to ask you this, like, how do you, I love it. Uh, Pat goes, have those books on my bookshelf right now. And he
They're
sent the
great.
Amazon link. I love it. How does one have that mindset, right? Do you hire for people who like love the industry? Because if people love the industry, they're gonna know and kind of have that mindset a little bit more. Like, how can folks who watch this now or in the future really use it or learn it?
Yeah. I mean, it's all about having a growth mindset, I think is the thing. It's all about being humble no matter where you're at.
Okay.
Like that's why we got rid of all the titles for all of our engineers, right? Is because like
I think it's a great idea. I think
no
it's a
matter
great
how
idea.
high you are in the architect, no longer how long you've been doing it, there's always something more to learn.
Yeah.
And so um when we interview, we actually have this like document that we created. So during
No.
the interview process, so
Yeah.
that
Talk
everyone
about it.
can be involved in that. And we have like different sections. Like there's a section of competency, right? Like this person has to be able to come in. You can't always just hire for someone that like they have a lot of great potential. essential, because they have to be able to come in and do their job, or else you're setting them up for failure. You don't
Yep.
want. So you have to hit competency. You have to hit the not an asshole test, which is like, is this person teachable? Are they
Sure.
humble? Can you actually put them in a room with someone who's more junior than them and they will listen and understand?
I love that.
And then also, like, when you're hiring an engineer, like, get your product team in there to talk to them, because they are the ones that are doing the discovery. They're the ones that can, like, go in there and really, like, suss out, how is
Sure.
this person? You have to be able to have a little bit of a product hat on as an engineer, especially in, like, these new days, unless you wanna go work on a team of, 500 engineers and all you're doing is writing unit tests all.
Yeah.
But if you wanna be a part of a smaller team, the other thing that we do is a very small team. So we set people up with, like, product manager and a few engineers, and they are this, like, small, nimble team that can go and work really, really well. So when you're on that small team, you as an individual have to take a lot more kind of responsibilities outside of what, you would normally do if you're on a large team, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of that comes into humility, like owning up to failures, owning up to times, and like how do they react to those times that they failed? Like, what was their response?
I love that. I love that. That's great. Talk about, let me ask you this. I mean, obviously, going from corporate into starting your own thing, you obviously made inroads, obviously, with your brother being in the industry. Are there any just general thoughts around job security right now in the market, tips and advice for folks who may want to start their own thing? Just kind of around that area.
Job security, meaning like, is AI going to take all of our jobs?
No, I mean, because I don't think it is anytime soon. But I guess just meant like, because I just feel that even since I've been recruiting, remind you, I've been recruiting since 2011. Like I remember when I was recruiting when like .NET MVC was hot. Like we were web forms, then MVC
Yep.
came out and everybody was freaking out about it, right? So I've seen the progression of the internet as I've been recruiting engineers, and I feel like nobody wanted a contract job 10 years ago. Now everyone's like, yeah, no, that's fine. So it's
Yeah.
more of just like at the end of the day, you're probably not going to be at the same place. I mean, maybe not. Like I want to be at Ronstadt and Torque for a long time, but realistically, I just feel like the temperature of corporate
Yeah.
America has shifted a little bit.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that play into that. I think, 20 years ago, the gold standard was stay at the same company for 50 years and get the gold watch.
Yeah,
Right. And so
I
then
love
that
a gold
changed.
watch.
And you start to see, the average time that people spend at a company kind of drop, right? Which means you have more churn. And now, like, I think AI is a real thing. I don't think that it's gonna replace all of our jobs
Sure,
overnight, but it's gonna make engineers more efficient, right?
sure,
So as an engineer, if I can leverage AI correctly, then I should be able to do the job of 5 engineers. You see this in like the large companies, the Googles, the Salesforce, Cloudflares. They're saying like 30 to 50% of our code is now written by. It's gonna become better. It's gonna get better, and
yeah,
so I do think that's a real thing, because it's not that these jobs won't exist, but if Google's laying off their engineers because they're replacing them with AI, then the job market's going to get more tough, because you have someone that lives in Nashville, worked at a few like medical places here and there. They submit their resume alongside someone who's been at Google for 10 years. Like, it just makes it a lot more difficult, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. So I got two questions here. It came in. Definitely want to get to these. Jason goes, "What made you decide to jump from one super challenging industry to another?" I often ask myself this.
Yeah. So if we look at the time that I went from like the biometric security to real estate, which seems like, again, it's seems like a step back if you were just to kind of look at it from like a high
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
level.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But in reality, there was a lot more opportunities for me to have growth. I think one of this whole thing, whether it comes
I
with
love that.
AI or whatever, is we always have to be growing. We can't let ourselves get stuck. So at Morpho Trust, now Idemia, I was building tech that impacted like all of the US in a high,
Yeah,
like very high visible way. We were not on just like TSA PreCheck. We had a bunch of different federal programs as
sure,
well as state
sure,
programs.
sure.
And so like very, very high impact. So when you move to real estate tech working for an MLS, like it seems like it's lower impact and a smaller bucket. However, we had a lot more freedoms in how we led the team. We got to try things out that we would have never gotten approval for, at Morpho Trust. We had got to build the teams in a different way and try these things out, which
Yeah.
was really, really cool. Like going from, doing Scrum on a 4-week sprint cycle to doing continuous delivery where you're delivering code, releasing multiple times a day, zero downtime deliveries in the middle of the day, like stuff like that, which is like really cutting edge when it comes to like how do you build a product is really cool.
I love that. So what I'm hearing you say is like you kind of have to decide it for yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
okay with your decision, right? You can't
Yeah.
look back like a year later and being like, man, I really missed a great opportunity. You have to say, like, why am I here at this job right now? What my one of my career coaches along my way, actually Doug, you all know Doug. He's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
Doug.
Yeah. Yeah.
He once told me that was like, David, you should go and interview for jobs like on an annual basis. And you can turn them
Your
down.
manager at the time told you that.
Absolutely. Yeah. He told
That's
me that.
crazy.
He see he
I
said
love that. I love
he
that actually.
said, because like if you turn those jobs down and you stay, then you're not wondering if you're missing opportunities.
I
You're not
love that.
wondering like, am I here because I'm afraid that I don't know how to interview?
I love that.
Did I lose that skill? But you're staying and you're staying here and you're like more motivated to be here, right? Or if that other job comes up, great. Like
Yeah.
congratulations. Like I'm glad
Yeah.
you had that have this new opportunity.
I love that. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of times people don't I listen, I don't want any of my team to leave me. Jason's one of them, and he's obviously listening to this now. But at the end of the day, if you want to go interview and see what else is out there, that's fine. I can't stop you. But I think a lot of people just need to realize that sometimes the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people want to scratch an itch. And listen, I listen, I was at Vaco for 11 years. Like I interviewed other places. But what I realized after interviewing at other places is that I got it pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Right. But again, if you don't have those conversations, then you don't know.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I'm gonna go interview somewhere else so I can get an offer and leverage it for a pay raise.
Correct.
It
Correct.
wasn't anything
Yes.
like that. It was something where you go and you make sure that I'm where I want to be right now, and it builds more trust with your current employer, your current manager. Like you said, like you realize like you have it pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Taryn comes in here. Can you define leveraging AI correctly? I feel like this is an
Oh man,
entire live
listen,
stream in and of itself, but
so we work in the film industry. One of the biggest things that like we had a like historic double strike a couple years ago, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because the of AI was one of the big components of that. So when it comes to generative AI and like replacing people's ability to have like art and expressive art, I think that's a poor use case of AI. The places where I think it really, really shines, and I can give a couple of examples. One of the things we do at Kino is when we're doing our user discovery calls, we will get permission and then we'll record them on Gmeet, right? And then we'll get those annotations. We'll drop that in AI and we'll say, can you summarize this? Then we'll do this for 10, 15 different like user discovery calls. Then we'll drop all of that in there and we'll say, hey, give me the patterns. Like, what are the things? Help me pull out all of
interesting,
these like things. And so
interesting.
then it bubbles up to the top, like, hey, like most of the people were talking about this specific thing. And so it really helps you like process and analyze data. So like that's
Yes,
one really good use case.
yep,
Another one is like using AI agents when you're writing code. You have to be very careful, right?
yes,
You can't just trust that the AI is going to write the code well. But I have AI built into my IDE, and I will let it stub out and do a lot of the busy work because it can do that in a matter of minutes, and it would take
yeah,
me hours. And then I have to go in and I have to write all the meat and potatoes of the code.
sure.
But it's like, how do we get rid of that busy work? So that's what I would say. Like when I'm talking about leveraging AI, it's not about replacing what I do day to day, but it's about helping me move faster in the like more mundane, busy work areas.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, again, Taron, I think this is so I'm working on a panel with our sales team about accessibility in AI. I think that's going to be a great conversation too. So Teron, be on the lookout for that. We'll announce that in the Discord. But yeah, again, great question. Can be a longer conversation. Are you guys using any AI agents at Kino right now for coding? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
so we've tried a couple things out. We tried GitHub Copilot. We've tried actually the thing that we're using right now is called Junie. We use WebStorm
Okay.
and JetBrains IDEs, and so
Okay.
it's the JetBrains AI.
Okay.
Now I only have like I say I don't have titles. My more senior engineers who have been doing this for a while, that like there's like a level of trust that they're going to
Sure.
know how to
Sure.
do this correctly, know
Yeah.
when not to trust AI, actually read through the code and, line by line and make sure. So we're very like careful with it still.
Sure.
So we're not full-fledged like using AI agents to go build features or anything like that. But it's again like, hey, we're about to do a major refactor. Let's write a really good prompt and get it to help us get 75% of the way there. And then we
Yeah.
come in and close out the last 25.
I
But I
love
feel
that.
like
And
that's
that's
one of
kind
those
of been
things.
consistent when I'm hearing from other engineering leaders too. Do
Yeah.
you, let me ask you this. Do you look for devs to have any sort of experience using AI right now when you hire?
Uh not explicitly, but I
Okay.
think it's important. I think the thing when it comes to AI and being afraid, especially this fear of AI is going to take my job,
Yeah.
is there's a couple approaches you can go. One, you can go, I'm all in on AI. I'm doing nothing but vibe coding, right? And I'm going to build this whole app. And then, you try to push it out to production and it's on some Vercel app and it's not secure and you have all these issues, right? So then the
Sure.
other
Sure.
extreme is like, I'm not going to use AI at all because I'm so afraid of it or I'm so like anti AI that and like that's the one that I think a lot of engineers might fall into where they get so far behind that they kind of get um, left in the dust. And then like 5 years down the road, they realize that like I'm kind of obsolete because I don't know how to operate on what is the standard norms.
Huh. Okay. That's good. I feel like I made a post about this. I feel like where we're at with AI right now is where we were with like when React came out on the scene. Is where like, hey, you don't need to know React, but more companies are going to start using it and you kind of need to start getting familiar with it. And I just feel like again, it's another trend or not a trend, but it's another wave that is happening right now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just
I
my two
mean,
cents.
who knows what it's going to look like 5 years from
Yeah.
now, 10
Yeah.
years from
Do
now.
you think we're gonna live in a world, again, it's a little hot take here. Do you feel like we're gonna live in a world where we're gonna have, there's I think, I like how you said the extremes here. Um, no AI to vibe coding. Do you feel like, I've heard things where there's just gonna be agents coding and then there's gonna be like an engineering manager, an AI agent manager. It's just gonna be checking everything. Do you think we're
Yeah.
gonna ever get there?
Yeah. I mean, it would be silly if we didn't get there, right? Like the technology will get to that point. I don't know how
Yeah.
long it's going to take.
Sure. Sure.
Um, but I think it it would be silly to think that this technology wouldn't. Anything that is really digital, like it
Yeah.
should be able to replace.
Yeah.
The the thing that's kind of crazy. I think this is like engineering became so big, so many people went into the engineering field and kind of got flooded, right? And
Correct.
so I think now
Correct.
it's starting to kind of like pull back on some of this because now some of the stuff can get automated. I think of do you remember in the like earlier days of Apple when they released the App Store and the App Store just got flooded with all of these like
Yeah, you
terrible
drink
garbage
beer out of your
apps.
phone,
Yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, look, it's a fart app. It makes
Yeah.
fart sounds, right? So I feel like we're gonna hit that with AI at some point, where there's
Sure.
all these like vibe coded apps that someone just thought up, and it's gonna flood the market, and the
Yeah.
market's gonna have to like figure out how do you weed through the noise to
Yeah.
find the things that are actually valuable. Um, I don't know that like, so I'm a parent. I have two girls. And I don't know
Girl
that
dads. Let's go.
I would encourage them to get into programming right now. Like,
I
that
think
feels
my
like
hot
a
take is robotics and hardware is the next wave.
yeah, but even with robotics and hardware, like, at what point does that become automated? Like, the
Yeah.
majority of manufacturing is automated already, technology, right?
Yeah.
So, there's very few, like, handheld, "I'm gonna screw this in and
Yeah.
fabricate it by hand" type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Pat goes, does that mean fewer meetings with AI agents? I would say probably more, because you're going to have to do more micromanaging. That's just
Yeah,
my
you're
hot
gonna
take.
have to be doing more prompt engineering, less.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a question here, and we're going to wrap up with this question. I don't know what this means. Maybe you know what it means. Can you give some pointers on blue-green deployments?
Yeah. So we call it our blue green stack. We have
Okay.
2 different live servers that are set up,
Okay.
and we have our networking set up so that one of them is live and the other is what we call our staging.
Okay.
So doing deliveries, like doing multiple deployments a day with a day with 0 downtime, you have to solve a lot of problems.
Okay.
So that there's a lot to get into, so I don't know if I can super get into it.
Sure. Sure.
But the idea is that you have to route your network traffic in a way that whenever you make a release, so you have to separate, like, when you deploy code from releasing value. One of the big
Okay.
differences here. So you deploy to your side that's not live, click a button, and then it becomes live. You have to do some network magic to make sure everyone's now routing to the side. There's a bunch of different strategies you can take on it, but I think, to your point, we probably don't have time to get into it. It's
Message
really
David, whoever this is.
yeah,
Listen, I
absolutely.
always
Hit
tell
me up.
folks, please connect with my guests. They're great people. I bring on great people. Please connect with David and Essa. But yeah, I don't know what this means. It sounds great. So definitely, I'm sure if you message David, say, hey, I saw it on Guidance Counselor 2.0. I was the one that asked the blue-green question. Give me some more information. I'm sure David will do that for you. So
100%.
I love it. I love it. All right. So rapid fire, kind of last few bits
Okay.
of questions here. We already went over the coffee tea debate at the beginning. Talk to me about anybody in your network you want to give a shout out to that's doing really cool stuff.
Oh man.
I know people always are like, why don't you prep me on this? Because I'm like, the whole point is I want immediately who pops into your mind.
The thing is, like, I've met so many cool people that are solving so many really cool problems, that I don't know that I could say just one. But I know, like,
Okay.
I was in Toronto for Toronto Tech Week a couple weeks
Yep.
ago, and met so many great people. Now, again, 95% of the people I met were solving problems with AI. Like,
Sure.
everything's a new AI company, but there were a
Sure.
lot of really cool implementations of this that, like, completely blew my mind. Is something I hadn't thought about. There's this company that was using AI to kind of leverage to see how efficient their engineers are being. Like,
Okay.
can you take this and apply it to, like, get pushes and all these things and try and get an idea of, like, what's the
Basically
throughput of
like
my team?
Whoop for
Yeah,
programming.
yeah. There was a
Yeah.
guy that was doing, like, had AI for insect farms, and he was helping using
Very niche
cameras
market.
and like humidity things. He was helping these insect farms have higher yield. Just like crazy things that you would never
That's
think
nuts.
of. So
That's nuts. I would love to know the content marketing behind that with Ant Farm. Actually, Angelo, my buddy, colleague, asked a great question. As a movie guy,
I feel
let's
like
do this because I know there's a lot of. Is there anything you've seen lately that you've really liked?
so it's kind of I don't get to watch a lot of movies anymore, which is kind of crazy,
You're
right?
you're
So I
running an
watch
organization.
I've watched a lot of things that are like movies that we are considering like distributing ourselves and stuff like that. And then when I usually have time to, like, sit down, I'm watching something with my wife, and so we usually tend to fall back to, like, some of the classics, like New Girl.
Oh, New Girl's my favorite.
Yeah, Friends, those types of things. If we start a movie, she usually falls asleep like 30 minutes to it. So
Sure, but do you have a favorite movie?
I don't know that I do. I know that's a bad
Okay,
answer.
that's a
I
terrible
think,
answer.
like, I would say The Matrix, but that would be stealing my brother's.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so I can't do
You
that.
know what? He's not on the show though, so you
Okay,
can take
definitely
it.
The
Yeah,
Matrix. It's my
definitely the
favorite. It
Matrix.
changed
Yeah,
my
yeah.
life. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Next question I want to ask. What do you like to do for fun, man? Like, what do you like to do outside of coding and running a business all day?
I If I have time, I'm usually playing video games, coaching my daughter's softball team.
Nice. Do you have a favorite video game you're kind of playing right now?
I do. So I'm actually using my streaming mic. I used to do Twitch streaming, and I played a lot of, like, competitive Fortnite and
Really?
competitive, like, Call of Duty. Yeah.
Nice. I want to see
Don't look me up.
Yeah, I want to see you in a Call of Duty chat room. You're talking about like an unhinged guidance counselor 2.0.
Yeah, that's a guidance counselor 2.0 after dark.
Exactly. All right, last question here, David. Again, thanks for everybody who showed up today. Please go connect with David. Go check out Kino. But so the show's called Guidance Counselor 2.0 because we had guidance counselors in middle school, high school, and college. But now as adults, we don't really have a guidance counselor to turn to and ask for career advice. If you could go back to young David, what would be the biggest piece of career advice you tell him?
Oh man. I think it would just be like not to be afraid of stepping out and trying new
I love
things.
it. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like the biggest thing. Like, uh, the biggest challenge that a lot of us face is like there's the fear of the unknown, and so just getting out and trying those new things, I think is super important.
Yep. I wish honestly I did the same. So I agree. All right, y'all. David, stay on so I can say bye to you backstage. Y'all have a good one tomorrow. I'm hanging out with the amazing Jasmine Vo. She is a senior front-end engineer at Synchrony. But we're kind of going into a little bit. It's gonna be kind of a little bit of health wellness. She's really big. She's done like the 75 hard challenge, and she's been documenting her journey from a health goals perspective. So we're gonna talk about how health, mental health, physical health really plays into the job search in your career. So it's gonna be a great conversation tomorrow. Otherwise, y'all have a great day. Go connect with David, and y'all have a good one. Peace.